Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. It is time for that weekly painting progress. And I'm going to stop myself before I even get started and excise any comment of me saying it was a slow week, because as I look at the amount of stuff that I got done, well, maybe it wasn't as slow as I imagined. This is like my crunch time. April is a crazy month, I've mentioned it before, and we're in like the birthday alley of when like my mom, my wife, my brother, my daughter all have their birthdays, and there's just a bunch of stuff going on, and yet somehow I managed to get a couple things painted. And it's funny because they're all from the same company, and we'll get into that. And I even got ahead of myself because I was going to film some of these over the weekend, and then I ended up painting a bunch. But let's talk about my stuff later, and let's talk about the fact that I got another model done from my dad. My dad tends to paint 1/32 scale historical miniatures / toy soldiers if I'm not giving him voluptuous half-naked women to paint instead. And it took me a while to remember what this model was called. This is Urza of Deadheim. And this is obviously a Kingdom Death model. Now, this was a frustrating one for both of us because, number one, I couldn't remember her name, and it took me a while to go back to the Kingdom Death Collector website and actually figure out who she was. But also just because there were, at the time he was painting this, not much in the way of actually photographed and uploaded pictures of her. So it is nice to actually see one painted and in the flesh, so kudos to my dad. I need to get on the ball and get him some new ones now, don't I? I don't have any laying around that are currently built, but I know I have Basara sitting over here in a box, so hopefully I will get around to filming her. Oh, and there's Lola Win too. Okay, I've got 2 more painter scale double sets at the very minimum, so I will get on top of that. But yeah, he got something painted, and that's always cause to celebrate, and hopefully he's working on a bunch of stuff from War Games Atlantic that I printed up for him, and hopefully we will see that soon. Now, I went on a bit of a mom miniatures kick, and one of the very first armies that I ever painted were, in fact, dwarves. It was probably the original release of the Mantic dwarves for Kings of War that I really kind of fell in love with. I mean, I'd painted and built quite a few of the older GW ones, but for whatever reason, it was the Mantic ones that really got me kind of back into the fold. So, Mom puts out a lot of very flavorful kind of old Hammer style models, and very specifically, rather than just do a greatest hits retread, they tend to have a lot of kind of their own style with a fair bit of charm. And their most recent endeavor that they've been putting out through Patreon, or not Patreon, maybe they are too. I was going to say through My Mini Factory's Tribes? That sounds right. I was going to say Frontiers, but I think that's their crowdfunding thing. Anyways, these were their forest dwarves, and they've got a whole range of them. And so this is just one of the generic, regular, basic troopers, and it's at a 4x zoom, so you can see all the nice little imperfections that I got on there. And for the most part, most of these models are all single piece, with the exception of oftentimes the weapon, or in this case, the shield. And you can see they are just about the right size for each other if you wanted to mix and match. Obviously, the styles are very different, so that might be something to consider. But the fact that, at least in terms of game style, they're going to look pretty similar together. And they are designed for square bases, but I don't ever put squares out anymore, so I don't do that. But one in dwarf wasn't enough, and you'll notice all of them have blue eyes, and we'll get to that in a little bit. This is one of their slayers, obviously. And this guy was actually a single piece, which was nice because I've dropped him twice now, and he seems to have survived for the most part. And again, at a 4x zoom, where you can see every little slight imperfection in my paint job, I consider that a win overall. I did like that they had 10 completely different sculpts for a unit, so if you wanted to, you know, put those together, there was a lot of fun to be had there. I tried to at least put him in similar colors since they're all forest dwarves. And then Honestly, the reason that I started painting these guys in the first place was because of Mom Miniatures Hermits. And that's why they all got blue eyes, because who knows what kind of psychedelics they've been taking out there. Maybe they've been cribbing notes off of the goblins. We know the goblins have a thing for mushrooms. Probably what's in that pouch there, or in the bottle. Now, it's a very sloppy paint job, again, at a super close-in zoom where you can see all those slight blemishes, but these are just weird models. They're naked, except for they're wearing a bunch of leaves around their heads. They've got mushrooms growing out of the tops of their heads, and they have ridiculously gigantic beards that cover up most of their stuff, except for their naughty bits there. You had to paint those correctly, right? And I can't say those are the first time I've had to paint dwarf bits either. Why is that the case? I don't know. And then I was going to do a more evil one, but then I thought, we can do their own evil dwarves later on. I like the leftover support that's right between his cheeks there. I should have painted it as a mushroom or something sticking out of his butt. I don't know. They're just fun, weird models. And there's an entire unit of those. So have at it. But honestly, the reason, as I said, I was getting ahead of myself was because as fun as the dwarves were, you got to have something to fight them with, right? I mean, they're just nice and colorful and squat. But then I saw something that really got my attention was the savage orcs that Mom makes. They have their forest orcs as well. And I painted a fair amount of savage orcs back in, I don't know, 9th edition, 8th edition, before the end times. And I always hated the fact that the savage orcs weren't actually getting ready to shoot their bows. So this guy was a single cast piece. I should say, no, he wasn't. Never mind. He printed, and I did actually have to glue that hand on, I guess. But it just seems so rare that there were orcs that didn't have their hands in the air. Now I say that, and then you couldn't have just one orc get painted, right? I had to paint some of the other ones. This guy absolutely was a single piece. I know that because the weapons are actually fused together intentionally. But I thought they came out pretty decent. And again, at a super decent zoom, if I get it to zoom back to normal size, I don't think you'll see any of the imperfections. And even up close like this, I think you can see them pretty well, that they are pretty fun and easy to paint. Now, I do have some savage orcs, and if you want to see those in comparison to them, I should have a video up on those in the very near future. Again, just fun sculpts. This guy actually had a misprint. His hands were a separate piece. Turned out alright for the most part. You can kind of see there where the stuff was kind of flattened and pancaked, but if I didn't point it out, I don't think it would make a huge difference. Now, our dwarf friends are all on probably 25mm bases. You could go smaller if you wanted to put them on 20s, but the orcs are on 32s. They're just too big to fit on something smaller. And you can see here, they're pretty decently sized. And like I said, if you want to see some comparisons, keep an eye on the channel. We'll have some more of those later on. But I was going to say, well, I didn't paint much. I did paint a few models, so I am happy about that. I know I tend to be very overly negative on myself when it comes to painting. And I mean, yeah, I'm not going to win any awards anytime soon. And that's mostly just my own decision making, because I'd rather just try to get stuff done rather than make it look really great. And if you've seen how many videos I've posted on models, I kind of have a pretty ridiculous backlog that I do try to work through on a regular basis. And if you'd like to see more of that getting worked through, I always put these videos up every Monday as well. So there's that to look forward to. And we'll have a link down to Mom below so you can check out their stuff as well. Honestly, I really was a big fan of their resins, and I don't know where I put most of them. They were always quite reasonably priced. So we'll put the link for the physical and the printable models. But very fun stuff. And I'm hoping I should be getting some new Kingdom Death models in the mail soon. Not that I don't have a backlog of those either. So I will leave you guys with that. We'll put that hashtag weekly painting process when I eventually get around to posting this stuff. I know I'm very slow, but I'm getting there. I do like to try to show off that you don't need to be a world-class painter. It just needs to get painted and have fun with this stuff. So yeah. With that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.